guys, welcome back. All right, today I want to talk to you about the reasons why I no longer wish to be a landlord in the UK anymore. Tried it several times with several people, and honestly each time it has been like a nightmare. We've used so many different routes. We've tried private renting, we've tried with a housing association. None of them, honestly, none of them are perfect. You'll never find like the perfect tenant. I mean, I think perhaps if your tenant comes through a recommendation or something like that, you may get it easier. But for the most part, being a landlord in the UK is tough, man. I mean, not to mention all the like rules and regulations that you have to have in place before you can even get a tenant in there. Once you get your tenant in there, it's a whole load of headache. And trust me, right, we have lost a lot of money due to tenants. So we've had 4 properties in the UK at any given point. And usually we lived in one and 3 of them were rented out. Okay, so one of the properties we had was, it was like a student property. So we had that, and that was based all the way down in Wales. Can you imagine? That was, I think that was definitely a mistake, because the reason I say that was a mistake is because it was too far from where we were living, and therefore we needed to have someone else manage it for us. And you think, okay, you know, when you're paying an estate agent to manage the property for you, that you could be less hands-on, and it was kind of like, just sort of like, you know, be able to run itself and you wouldn't have to have much interaction. But that was not the case, you know, that was really not the case. Honestly, these people were like shafting us. They would say this needs fixing, that needs fixing, and it just wouldn't be the case. Like, you'd take your trip and go all the way down to Wales, you'd see the property, and it was like something small, and they were charging like silly numbers, and like every time a tenant was in there, something would get broken or something get damaged. Or always, every single time there's something that's got damaged and we need to fix it. It was getting to the point where it's getting so silly, because it was a student rental. It wasn't like generating that much cash. I mean, it was enough to cover the mortgage and have a little bit, but it's almost like the little bit that was left over every month would then have to be given back to the house again, because there was what they call wear and tear. So like a chair would be broken, and instead of them saying that, okay, someone broke it, they would say, oh no, it's down to wear and tear. Everything was wear and tear, even though we had furnished the whole house from the beginning and everything was new. It was like so frustrating. But honestly, the worst one was the house that we had in Surrey Keys. That was the worst property. That was the property that the council actually gave me. That was the property that set me up in the beginning. That's the property that I talked about in this video right here. That's that property. Yeah, so when we moved out of that house, we needed to, well, it was a flat. When we moved out of that flat, we needed to move into a house. And so what we did was we took a little bit of equity out of that house and we bought a house somewhere else, and we decided to rent that one out. Now, we tried renting it to the housing association, because you think, okay, if you have a property and give it to the housing association will pay maybe 70 to 100% of the person's rent, so it's not that much of a big deal. So when we were moving out, we had this guy come and see the house, and he was like, oh yeah, he wants to rent the house out. It will be for just him and his daughter. You know, he just come to the UK. He was from, I don't know, he spoke French. I can't remember what country is that. It just slips my mind right now. But anyway, he was like French. He was black, but he was like one of these French speaking countries. So he'd just come here and he was trying to settle his daughter. He just got his daughter back. I'm not sure what the issue was there, but he just got his daughter back, and he wanted to settle them down here and get his daughter into a really good nursery, and so he could go and work and all of that. You know, I'm all for giving people opportunities and, you know, having people have like a really good start, because, you know, I had a good start in that sense, and so I wanted someone else to be able to have the same experience. And so I was like, okay, fine, yeah, let's do this. Let's put him in there. Oh my gosh, was that a mistake, or was that a mistake? Honestly, this was like a headache. The beginning, probably like the first year or so that he was in there, it was pretty much okay, because his daughter was always with him. So he didn't have to pay any rent himself up front. It was just the council would pay me every time. I didn't have to deal with anything. It was pretty much okay. But honestly, as time went on, his situation changed. So his daughter then went back to stay with the mother, and he was left alone in the house, which meant that then his rent was not fully subsidized, so he had to pay some, and obviously he wasn't paying it. And every time I would call the council and say, this guy's not paying, you have to take up the tenant, you have to take up the tenant, and the tenant really didn't care. But anyway, I'm not going to blab too much about that, because I think we all know about that kind of situation, how it goes. And so honestly, I had to call it got to the point where I had to call bailiffs in to try and get this guy out. And then all of a sudden I get a call from the council and they're begging me, oh, let him stay. We're gonna, he's working to pay his debt off, and they give you all the promises in all the world that all of this will be kind of like resolved and everything will be fine, you'll get your money, And sure enough, the first few months everything was rosy. He was paying it back, and he was paying his rent on top, and so everything was fine. And then we fall into another situation, and it was like, it's so frustrating because when you get the bailiffs out, you don't get the bailiffs out just like that. It's not free. First of all, you have to apply. There's an application fee. And then you may need to go to court, so you have to take a day of work in order to go to court. I had to go through all this. And then on top of that, there's like so many other little things that need to be done. It's not an easy process, basically. It was quite frustrating. So yeah, it was just like a whole hassle, a whole palaver. It really was. And the thing about it is the fact that you have to, I think when it's your property, this is the thing that I don't understand. Something is yours, you're paying a mortgage, you're obligated to a mortgage. It's not like, oh, the house is mortgage free and therefore if it's in there it's not going to really affect me. No, I'm paying a mortgage, I'm paying all the other associated costs that go with that house, and the person doesn't pay their rent, it falls on me to have to pay the rent. And I feel like in the UK they give people, the tenants, so much more rights than the actual landlord has, because a tenant can stay in your property and be in there without paying a single penny. It can go even up to a year. Like, someone doesn't pay for a year, and like say you're owed £20,000, it doesn't matter about the amount. They have rights to stay inside that house. You can't do anything. You can't just wait until the person leaves the property, go in there and change the locks and do whatever you know, get your property back. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through this slow process. You have to wait for a date for the court. You have to wait for a date for the bailiffs to be able to come in. You have to wait for so many things, and all those times that you're waiting, you're actually losing money. And I hate that process so much. Not to mention the damage that was done to my flat when he left as well. I think one day he must have locked himself out, and so he actually broke the window. He broke the kitchen window in order to gain access to the property, and then proceeded to afterwards to drill the window closed, so no one could actually open that window anymore. He had actually screwed it closed. And after we actually managed to get him out of the house, he was still, don't forget, he was still owing us money. He left the house, he was still owing us money. We had to redecorate that whole entire flat from top to bottom. It was an expense we were not expecting, because at the time we were in the process of moving to Ghana and we needed to re-let the house out very quickly before we left. And it was just like, we lost a lot of money. We had to get the window fixed that he had damaged. We had to get the floors redone. We had to pay. We had to clean up. Oh, the stress. Honestly, sometimes I wish that I had been vlogging before I left the UK, because I had so many stories, so many things happened, guys. It was not straightforward. Oh gosh, if only I had those videos to look back on, it would be amazing. But yeah, eventually he left, and so we decided, okay, we're not going to work with that. We don't want someone from the council to look after the property anymore. That's not happening anymore. So we're going to go to a private landlord. So we went to this private estate agent, and a friend of ours actually recommended him. So we thought, okay, let's get this, let's go this direction. These people, they work, and so they're more reliable, they have references and all the rest of it, so this should be good. So we went to this estate agent. They got someone in there all right. It was pretty okay. You know, it hurts paying a fee every month to people. But you have to pay that fee to the estate agent, because obviously we weren't in the country, so we needed someone to manage the property for me. They were pretty good. I can't complain too much. Again, it was just the whole thing of, you know, the rules and the regulations that you have to stick to. The tenants just have so many rights when it comes to being in your property, and therefore I feel like if you're a landlord, you can lose out on so much. So you might be up one month, another month you're down, because one month they paid, another month they didn't pay, and so you have to cover that cost. And it's like, how many times can you cover that cost without it affecting your own finances, affecting your own credit score and all of that? To get someone out of a property when you've rented a property is very, very difficult, and you have to know the process yourself. Unless you get a lawyer, you have to work it out for yourself. So you're talking about getting a Section 8, a Section 21, and you need to know the rules and you need to know the laws. So it's almost like you have to become this lawyer by, you know, self-taught lawyer when it comes to all the rules and regulations of learning how you're going to manage the property. And so honestly speaking, I didn't really want to do that from abroad, because we also rented our house in Kent as well, and again we had a similar issue over there with the tenants. They're not paying. It was a woman and her niece or something like that moved into the house. It was a woman and her niece that had moved into the house, and I think they had an argument or something, and then one of them left, and then the other one said that they couldn't afford to pay the rent by themselves, and then we had another issue, and oh, the headache. It was too much. In the end, we decided that, you know what, let's just sell the houses, because the houses were actually costing us money. Because honestly, let me just put it out there. Our financial plan when we came to Ghana was that these houses that we were renting out in the UK would help us live here, because the surplus that we get from those would basically give us quite a good income to live here. Interest rates were very, very low, because, you know, the whole housing crisis, and mortgage rates fell to like 0.5% or something like that. So it was like chicken change paying your mortgage. And so we had that income, but slowly, one by one, things were happening to the houses, and so we just decided, you know what, this is not working for us. This was actually costing us money, and that is part of the reason why we kind of fell into a bit of hardship here as well, because there was so many problems happening in the houses, things that you need to fix, people not paying rent, you know, there was like silly things like that, and there's nothing you could do. You literally have your hands tied behind your back. And so because of that, honestly, I just didn't want to be a landlord in the UK anymore. Just too many rights, I'm sorry. In my opinion, if someone doesn't have a good reason for not paying their rent, 1, 2, 3 months, they should have to go. That is it, as simple as that. 3 months, I think, should be an absolute maximum. I understand there are situations where perhaps you would feel like, okay, you know, I really want to help this person, or this person's really trying, and you want to give them that chance. That's a different situation. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about people who blatantly just don't pay their rent. Those ones. That for me is an irritant. You're having a knock-on effect on someone else, and it's the most frustrating thing. Honestly, if you're coming to Ghana, don't let property from abroad to just be your only source of income. That's all I can say. The headache. It was because, you know what? These people, they can fail you all, and the headache. It was, the law is not on your side. As a landlord, you don't have many rights as far as I'm concerned. You don't. You end up in the soup, basically. So honestly, I just don't want to be a landlord. Unless they change some of the red tape that is around the whole renting issue. Nah, cut. That ain't happening. That ain't happening, because I'm not about to be paying someone else's rent and be trying to survive over here as well. That just doesn't work for me. So yeah, it's kind of irritating, and that's the reason why. So someone had asked me this question on a previous video that I did, why I said that I didn't want to be a landlord. This is the reason why, because being a landlord can be very hit and miss unless you have a ton of properties, like a string of properties, where you have more of a cushion that way, because your risk is kind of spread out more. But if you have like four or so properties, it's still a bit risky, because two people don't pay rent, it brings you down. Whereas if you had, say, like 10 properties that you are renting and 2 don't pay, there's less of an impact on your financial situation, if that makes sense. So for me, if I was going to go into property again in the UK, it would be about flipping houses. That's all I would do, flip houses. I'm not interested in anything else, flip houses. The only way I'd rent is to perhaps someone that I really knew and really trusted. Apart from that, nah, it just ain't for me. But anyway, I think I've spoken enough, guys, because this is longer than I intended it to be. Obviously, I still have some hurt going on here. It's coming out through the video, so yeah. Some of these videos are like therapy for me, so it kind of feels good to talk about it. I have a lot to talk about, I think. So yeah, anyway, let me know if you guys like me sharing my experiences, and if you want more of that, let me know any video suggestions you also have. I'd be happy to share. I'm pretty much an open book, and so yeah, that's it. But anyway, guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button for me and the notification bell, and don't forget, do me a favor and like this video so more people get to see it. I'd appreciate it very much. Until next time, I am out.